Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to learn, sometimes it's not about fighting the battle in front of you, it's about knowing when to let go. There are moments in life when you've got to recognize that some relationships, some situations, some environments, they don't deserve to keep you, and they certainly don't deserve your peace. Not every person is assigned to your future. Not every conversation is meant to carry you to the next level. There are times, there are seasons when it's okay to cut them off silently. Now hear me clearly, there is power in silence. There's strength in the quiet. You don't have to announce it to the world, you don't have to make a scene, you don't have to broadcast your next move. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remove yourself from a situation or a relationship without explanation. You don't need to scream, you don't need to shout, you don't need to create a fuss. Just cut them off quietly without making a sound. And watch how your life begins to align with the purpose it was always meant to walk in. There's something about the noise that distracts you, something about the constant chatter of the wrong people that keeps you from hearing the voice of God clearly. And that voice, that's the one that will direct you to your destiny. That's the voice that will lead you to the breakthrough you've been praying for. But when you're surrounded by the wrong people, you'll start to hear everything but that voice. You'll hear the negativity, the doubt, the criticism, and the distractions. And suddenly, your focus gets blurry, your direction becomes uncertain, and your peace starts to slip away. You don't need to announce that you're cutting them off. You don't need to give them a reason or a justification. You don't owe them an explanation for preserving your peace, for protecting your heart, for making room for your own growth. I know, you want to be polite, you want to be kind. But sometimes kindness means knowing when to let go. Sometimes peace means stepping away from the drama, the toxicity, the people who only pull you down. The longer you stay in a situation that doesn't serve you, the more you hinder the growth that's waiting on you. And when you cut them off silently, you're not just releasing them, you're also releasing yourself. I need you to understand that cutting someone off doesn't mean you're weak, it doesn't mean you're bitter, and it doesn't mean you're angry. It means you've grown. It means you know your worth. It means you've realized that your time, your energy, and your spirit are too valuable to be spent on people who don't see your value. I'm talking to somebody right now who's been holding on to people, relationships, friendships, even family members who have been draining you, weighing you down, and keeping you from walking in the fullness of who God has created you to be. Let me tell you something, there's nothing wrong with cutting off people who no longer contribute to your peace and purpose. Some of us are holding on to people in situations out of obligation, out of fear of being alone, out of fear of judgment, or out of some false sense of loyalty. But I want to let you know right now that loyalty to yourself, loyalty to your purpose, loyalty to your growth is the highest form of loyalty you can have. What good is it to keep people around who never have your back? What good is it to continue to invest in relationships that only take from you and never give? Some of us have been doing it for years, pouring into people who are not pouring back into us, supporting people who would never support us, loving people who would never love us. It's exhausting, it's draining, and it keeps you stuck in a place of spiritual stagnation. There's a time for everything, and I'm here to tell you it's time to release what's holding you back. You don't need to argue with them, you don't need to try to convince them, you don't need to change their mind. All you need to do is step into your purpose, align yourself with the future that God has planned for you, and let go. Let go of the people who don't align with your destiny. Let go of the people who no longer bring peace into your life. Let go of the people who are holding you back, even if they're comfortable, even if you've known them for a long time. This is about recognizing that not everyone is meant to walk with you through every season. There are seasons in your life when some people are only there to teach you something, and once that lesson is learned, it's time for them to step aside. You don't need to feel guilty about that. You don't need to hold on because you feel obligated or because you don't want to hurt someone's feelings. You've got to cut the dead weight off. Look, I know how hard it is. I know you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I know you want to believe that people will change, that they'll come around, that they'll realize your worth. But let me tell you something. If they haven't seen your value yet, They probably never will. And you can't wait for them to recognize what you've been trying to show them for years. Your life is too precious. Your time is too valuable. Your peace is too expensive. Sometimes the only way to move forward is to leave people behind. I'm not saying this with malice or anger. I'm not saying this with any kind of bitterness in my heart. I'm saying it with clarity and with love. Love for you, love for your future, love for your peace, love for your progress. Because I know that when you finally let go, when you finally release the things and people that are not serving your purpose, God will open doors you couldn't even imagine. He will bring new relationships, new connections, new opportunities that will propel you forward in ways you never thought possible. But here's the thing, you've got to be strong enough to walk away in silence. Don't make a scene, don't drag it out, don't try to get. Sometimes the most powerful action you can take is silently cutting off relationships or situations that no longer serve your peace, purpose, or growth. You don't need to create drama or seek validation. Just step away quietly and protect your inner peace. Recognizing your worth means acknowledging that your time, energy, and spirit are too valuable to be wasted on people or situations that drain you. Cutting ties is an act of self-respect and loyalty to your own growth and purpose. Some people are only meant to be part of your life for a specific season or to teach you a lesson. Once that season ends, it's okay to release them and move forward. Not everyone is assigned to your future. When you let go of what's holding you back, you create space for new opportunities, relationships, and breakthroughs. Trust in God's plan for your life, knowing that by walking away from the wrong people, you're opening the door to a better future. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to let go of what no longer serves us. The people, the situations, the environments we've invested our time, energy, and love into. Yet they've only taken from us, drained us, or kept us stuck in a cycle that doesn't align with the vision we have for our lives. The reality is, you don't always need to make a grand declaration or announce your decision to the world when it's time to let go. In fact, the most powerful thing you can do is to cut them off silently. Letting go doesn't always require an explanation, and sometimes silence can be louder than words ever could be. There's something sacred about silence. It holds a strength that words often can't convey. You see, silence speaks volumes. When you choose to silently let go of someone or something that has been holding you back, you are making a powerful statement, not to them, but to yourself. It's a statement that says, I value my peace. I value my purpose. I recognize that this situation is no longer aligned with my future, and I am walking away from it. Too often, we think that letting go requires a confrontation. We think we need to have a conversation, explain ourselves, and make sure that the other person understands why we're moving on. But what if I told you that not every situation needs a confrontation to end? Not every relationship needs a dramatic closing scene. Sometimes the most powerful move is to walk away without a word, to simply step out of the situation, to let go quietly, and to allow the space for something better to enter your life. In the world we live in today, it seems that everyone wants to be heard. Everyone has an opinion, a voice, and a desire to make sure that their side is known. We live in a culture that loves drama, that thrives on noise, on confrontation, and on conflict resolution that involves a lot of words and emotions. But you see, there's a different kind of power in silence. Our children need more than our knowledge and generosity. They need comradeship. We need commitment and friendship. There's a different kind of peace that comes when you realize you don't need to argue, you don't need to defend yourself, and you don't need to justify your actions to anyone. When you choose silence, you are taking control. You are taking back your power. You are saying, I don't need your approval, your validation, or your understanding. My peace is more important than your explanation. My future is worth more than the noise you bring into my life. This isn't an act of anger or bitterness. It's an act of self-love, of knowing that you deserve better, and that sometimes letting go in silence is the most respectful thing you can do for yourself and for the other person involved. Think about it. How many times have you tried to explain your feelings to someone who just didn't get it? How many times have you tried to justify why you needed to step away from a relationship or a situation only to be met with more resistance, more confusion, or more manipulation? It's exhausting. It's draining. And the reality is, some people will never understand why you need to move on. They will never comprehend the changes happening in your life, the growth that you're experiencing, or the decisions you are making for your own well-being. And that's okay. You don't need their approval. You don't need to seek closure from someone who doesn't value your presence in the first place. There's freedom in silence. There's strength in not needing to explain yourself. There's wisdom in knowing when to walk away and just let the relationship, the situation, or the environment fade out naturally. This isn't about being passive. This is about being intentional with your energy. You see, when you continue to argue, continue to fight, continue to try to convince others of your worth, you're giving away your power. You're feeding into a dynamic that is draining you. But when you choose silence, you are taking back control of your narrative. You're saying, I don't need to prove my worth to you. I know who I am, and I know what I deserve. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you're afraid. It means you've gotten into a place. You're simply walking away with dignity and grace, knowing that the energy you once invested into this relationship or situation is better spent elsewhere. In moments of silence, you are allowing space for clarity. Often when we're in the midst of drama or conflict, our minds are clouded. We're caught up in the emotional whirlwind, trying to make sense of things, trying to get closure, trying to fix something that might not even be fixable. But in the silence, there's clarity. In the quiet, you begin to hear your own thoughts. You begin to hear your own voice. So you start to realize what's really important, what matters most, and what needs to stay and what needs to go. And the beauty of that clarity is that it gives you direction. It gives you purpose. It helps you understand what your next step should be, without the distractions, without the noise. Moreover, silence is an act of emotional intelligence. It takes emotional maturity to know when to speak and when to remain quiet. It takes strength to walk away from someone or something that's holding you back, without needing to explain yourself or engage in a conversation that will only drag out the situation further. Often we stay in unhealthy relationships or toxic environments because we feel the need to fix things, to make it right, to help people understand our point of view. But sometimes fixing things doesn't require more words, it requires more action. It requires the action of choosing peace over conflict. It requires the action of choosing self-respect over validation from others. It requires the action of silently walking away from what doesn't serve your growth. But how do you know when it's time to let go silently? You know because you begin to feel a stirring in your spirit. You begin to feel the weight of the situation, the weight of the relationship, or the weight of the environment. You begin to sense that you're no longer growing, no longer thriving, no longer being nurtured by the connection. You begin to realize that what was once a source of comfort, security, or love has now become a source of tension, frustration, and emotional depletion. And that's when you know, without a doubt, that it's time to step away. Sometimes we hold on because we don't want to hurt people. We don't want to cause pain. We don't want to feel guilty. We don't want to seem cold-hearted or selfish. But the truth is, you can't keep sacrificing your well-being for the comfort of others. Your peace is too important. Your mental health is too important. Your happiness is too important. And the best way to protect those things is to learn the art of silent release. Walk away without guilt. Walk away without regret. Walk away with your head held high, knowing that you made the right choice for your own growth and your own happiness. When you let go in silence, you also create space. You create space for new opportunities, for new relationships, for new experiences that will align with the person you're becoming. You open the door to things that will nourish your spirit, things that will help you grow, things that will lift you up instead of drag you down. In the absence of the toxic, the draining, and the negative, there's room for the good, the positive, and the life-giving. And that's the beauty of silence. It creates space for the better things that are meant for you. You don't need to make noise when you cut them off. You don't need to announce it to the world. You don't need to give anyone an explanation. Just move in silence and watch how your life transforms. Watch how your relationships begin to shift. Watch how the right people will start to show up. The right opportunities will start to unfold. And the peace you've been seeking will finally settle in your soul. The power of silence and letting go is not just in the action, but in the wisdom behind it. It's knowing that you don't need to hold on to what doesn't align with your purpose, and that sometimes the quietest choices are the most profound. When you cut them off silently, you are choosing peace over conflict, growth over stagnation, and clarity over confusion. You are choosing yourself, and that, my friend, is the most powerful thing you can do. You are your most valuable asset, and time once spent can never be recovered. Energy is the fuel that powers you forward, and when it's depleted by the wrong people, situations, and environments, it can be incredibly difficult to get back on track. Often we underestimate how much our time and energy truly matter, and we spend them freely, sometimes on things and people that offer little in return. The truth is, we only have a limited amount of time and energy in this life, and once it's gone, it's gone. That's why it's critical to protect them, to guard them with the utmost care. Because you're not just investing in the present moment, you're investing in your future. When you start to value your time and energy, you realize that not everything or everyone is worthy of your attention. You start to recognize the importance of being selective about where you direct your efforts and who you allow into your space. Not everyone deserves your time, and certainly not everyone deserves the energy that you so willingly offer. There's a certain level of awareness that comes with this understanding, and once you grasp it, you'll start making decisions that align with your purpose, your peace, and your growth. How often have you found yourself pouring time into people who don't appreciate it, or into situations that drain you without giving anything back? You give and give and give until you realize that there's nothing left for you. And even when there's nothing left, you keep giving because that's what you're used to. Maybe it's out of a sense of duty, maybe it's out of guilt, or maybe it's simply because you haven't yet realized the full worth of your own energy. But here's the thing. Your time and energy are too precious to be squandered on people who don't value them. Your life is too short to continue to invest in relationships and situations that are not serving you. When you fail to value your time and energy, you end up giving away pieces of yourself to others, and eventually you'll find yourself empty. We often make the mistake of thinking that time is endless, that we have forever to do the things we want to do, to become the person we want to be, to build the life we want to have. But the reality is, time is the most finite resource you have. No matter how rich or successful you become, no matter how many people you surround yourself with, time keeps ticking. And once it passes, there's no getting it back. So you've got to become intentional about where you spend it. You've got to be purposeful in how you allocate your time, because every hour, every minute, and every second is an investment in your future. And if you're not careful, you can easily waste it. Waste it on the wrong people, on the wrong situations, and on the wrong paths that don't lead you anywhere near the vision you've created for your life. But when you start valuing your time and energy, it begins to show in the choices you make. You start saying no more often to things that drain you, and you start saying yes to things that add value to your life. You start prioritizing the things that matter most, and you become more discerning about where you spend your energy. No longer will you pour yourself into toxic environments, into relationships that leave you emotionally exhausted, into opportunities that don't align with your purpose. Instead, you'll begin to recognize what nourishes your soul, what makes you feel alive, what propels you toward your goals, and you'll give those things the time and attention they deserve. People will try to take your time. They'll try to monopolize your energy, demand your attention, and manipulate your emotions. And while it's important to be kind and generous with others, there comes a time when you've got to draw the line. You've got to put yourself first. You got to recognize that in order to show up for others in a healthy and sustainable way, you've got to first take care of yourself. If you continue to give without replenishing, you will run out of fuel. Your body, your mind, and your spirit will break down, and no amount of success, no amount of praise, no amount of external validation will make up for the internal depletion that comes from neglecting yourself. When you begin to value your time and energy, you start to set boundaries that protect you. You stop letting people take advantage of your kindness, your resources, and your goodwill. You stop feeling guilty for saying no because you understand that your yes has value. Saying no doesn't mean you're being selfish. It means you're being wise. It means you're recognizing that your time is finite and you're choosing to spend it on the things and people that truly matter. The more you value your time, the more you respect your own worth, and the more you honor the fact that you deserve to be around people and in situations that bring out the best in you, not drain you. It's not just about saying no to the things that are bad for you. It's also about saying yes to the things that fuel you. For instance, you need to say yes to your growth. You need to say yes to your dreams. You need to say yes to the things that stretch you, challenge you, and make you become the person you are destined to be. When you value your time and energy, you stop filling your schedule with meaningless distractions. You stop saying yes to things because you feel obligated or because you're afraid to disappoint someone. Instead, you begin to make intentional choices that serve your purpose, that align with your values, and that bring you closer to the vision you've set for your life. Have you ever noticed how people who value their time are often the most productive and fulfilled? They're not wasting their hours in meaningless conversations, pointless activities, or drama-filled relationships. Instead, they're investing in their personal growth, in their careers, in their families, and in the things that matter most. They understand that their time is limited, and they make every moment count. This doesn't mean you should be busy all the time. It doesn't mean you should fill every second with activity. Sometimes, valuing your time means knowing when to rest. Knowing when to say no to work in order to rest your mind and recharge your body. Sometimes, the most valuable thing you can do with your time is to spend it doing nothing at all. To give yourself the permission to simply be. To restore your energy and to allow space for the creativity, the peace, and the inspiration that comes when you're not constantly running on empty. The same goes for your energy. You can't be everywhere at once. You can't be everything to everyone. Your energy is limited, and you have to be intentional about how and where you spend it. People who value their energy know how to conserve it. They know how to say no to things that drain them, and they know how to say yes to things that replenish them. You can't give your best to others if you're constantly giving away pieces of yourself without refueling. If you're always pouring your energy into things and people that don't reciprocate, you will eventually run dry. And when you run out of energy, you run out of creativity, you run out of focus, you run out of enthusiasm, and you run out of the drive that propels you toward your goals. It's time to stop wasting your energy on things that are not aligned with your purpose. Stop wasting it on people who take without giving anything back. Stop wasting it on situations that only bring stress, anxiety, and frustration into your life. When you begin to value your energy, you recognize that it's not just about what you can do for others. It's about what you can do for yourself. It's about preserving your energy so that you can show up as your best self in every area of your life. When you truly begin to value your time and energy, your life transforms. You stop settling for less than you deserve. You stop allowing people to drain you. You stop participating in situations that are not serving you. You become more intentional with every moment, more mindful with every decision, and more conscious of the energy you allow into your space. And when you protect them, when you invest them in the things and people that nourish you, you set yourself up for a life of purpose, fulfillment, and success. In the end, valuing your time and energy isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about honoring the life you've been given and respecting the incredible potential that lies within you. The more you protect your time, the more you protect your peace, and the more you protect your purpose. And when you do that, you open the door for the best version of you to emerge. There's a truth that many people never realize until it's too late. Not everyone is meant to walk with you through every season of your life. There are people who come into your life for a reason, for a season, and for a time, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're destined to stay forever. Some people are sent to you to teach you valuable lessons, to help you grow, to challenge you in ways you never thought possible. My suggestion will help you develop more open-minded needing to be healthy with. But there comes a point in your journey when their role in your life is complete and it's time for them to move on, just as it's time for you to move on as well. The idea of permanent relationships, of people who will be there for you through thick and thin, can be a beautiful and comforting thought. But the reality is, relationships, whether they are friendships, romantic relationships, or even family connections, are often seasonal. People are meant to be in your life at certain points, at specific times, for specific purposes. And when that season ends, there's no shame in letting them go. In fact, there's wisdom in recognizing that not everyone is supposed to walk with you through every chapter of your life. Sometimes we hold on to people because we think we're supposed to. We think that just because someone was once close to us, they should always be a part of our journey. We believe that relationships once formed are meant to last forever. But life doesn't work that way. People change, we change, our paths evolve, and so do the people we walk with. And while some relationships will grow with us and stay intact through the seasons, others will fall away naturally, and that's okay. Life may change. When we turn 18, life progresses and we slowly try to accept that new responsibilities and pressures will sometimes come in. The difficulty comes when we don't accept this truth. We hang on to people who no longer fit our lives, or we try to hold on to relationships that have long passed their time. This is where we get stuck. This is where we try to force something to work that simply isn't meant to. When you continue to hold on to relationships that no longer serve you, you create unnecessary tension in your life. You end up clinging to something that's no longer in alignment with who you are becoming, with the direction you're headed. It's not about being selfish, it's about being true to yourself. You have to recognize that sometimes you have to let go. Not because you want to hurt someone, but because holding on keeps you from moving forward. It's like holding onto a branch of a tree that's no longer connected to the trunk. At one point, that branch was strong and healthy, supporting the tree and contributing to its growth, but over time, it's become disconnected. It's no longer a part of the tree's lifeblood. If you keep holding onto that branch, you'll be stuck in place, unable to move forward, while the tree continues to grow in new directions. The same can be said for the people in your life. Just because someone was once important to you doesn't mean they have to stay forever. You can still love them, you can still wish them well, but that doesn't mean they're supposed to be a part of your present or your future. People enter our lives for different reasons, and they leave for different reasons too. Sometimes people come into our lives to teach us something we didn't know about ourselves, about the world, or about relationships. They show us where we need to grow, where we need to stretch, and where we need to heal. These people can often challenge us, push us outside of our comfort zones, and cause us to reflect on our choices, our behaviors, and our patterns. But once we've learned what we needed to learn from them, their role in our lives is complete. We may not fully understand why they were there or why they left, but when you trust that everything happens for a reason, you begin to see that these people were only meant to be a part of a certain chapter in your life. Similarly, some people come into our lives during times of crisis, offering support and love when we need it most. These people may walk with us through dark moments, holding us up when we feel like we can't stand on our own. They offer comfort, they listen, they provide a sense of stability during tumultuous times. But when the crisis passes, when the storm clears, their role in your life may change. They may not be the ones you turn to in the same way anymore, and that's okay. It's not that they don't matter or that they didn't make a difference. It's simply that the season has ended, and the needs you have now are different from what they could provide. What happens, though, is that we can start to feel guilty when these relationships end. We feel as though we owe these people something because they were there for us during a difficult season. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone your time or energy beyond what they were meant to contribute to your life. If they've served their purpose in your life, it's okay to let them go. It's okay to move on. And it's okay if they're not meant to be in your next chapter. I know it's difficult because we're taught to value loyalty, to stick with people through thick and thin, and to never leave someone behind. But loyalty doesn't mean holding on to people who no longer align with who you are or where you're going. Loyalty means respecting someone's place in your life, even if that place is only for a season. Loyalty means honoring the role they played in your journey, but also honoring the fact that your journey is moving in a different direction now. And sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is let someone go when their time in your life has passed. It's not about rejection, it's about recognition. Not everyone is meant to be there forever. And I know it's hard to accept that because we get attached, we form emotional bonds, we invest time, we open ourselves up, and it feels like we're betraying those bonds when we walk away. But remember, life is all about seasons. Just as there are seasons of growth, there are seasons of rest, seasons of challenge, and seasons of letting go. You cannot move forward if you're stuck in a season that's over. You cannot step into the future that's waiting for you if you're constantly looking behind, holding on to relationships that were only meant for a particular point in your life. And this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. This applies to friendships, family, colleagues, anyone who has had a role in your life at one point or another. There's also a lesson in this for you as you go through life and meet people. You are not meant to be a permanent fixture in everyone else's life either. Sometimes you come into someone's life for a reason, to show them something, to teach them a lesson, to challenge their thinking, and then you leave. Your role in their life is not to stay forever, but to be the catalyst for their growth. And that's okay. You don't have to feel guilty for stepping out of someone's life if your time there has come to an end. You can leave with grace, knowing that you played the part you were meant to play, and that, too, is a powerful thing. When we understand that not everyone is meant for every season, we start to see relationships differently. We stop holding on to people out of guilt, obligation, or fear. We stop trying to force relationships to last longer than they're meant to. We start to see that relationships are beautiful for the time they are in our lives, but they don't have to be forever to be meaningful. You can love people, you can be grateful for their presence in your life, and you can honor their role, but you also have to recognize when it's time to let go and move forward. Letting go doesn't diminish the value of what was. It simply opens up space for the new, the different, the better that's waiting for you. Your life is a journey, and not everyone is meant to walk it with you from start to finish. Embrace the seasons, learn from the people who enter your life, and have the wisdom to know when to release them so that you can step into the next chapter with strength and clarity. And when you can do that, you'll realize that the people who were meant for you will always find their way back, while the ones who are only meant to stay for a season will naturally fade away. There's no shame in it, there's no loss in it, it's just life. And life goes on, as it should. There comes a time in every person's life when the road ahead seems uncertain and the familiar things around you start to fade away. You may have invested time, energy, and heart into certain people, dreams, or situations only to find that they no longer fit the person you are becoming. In those moments of change, the natural response is often to cling to the past, to hold on tightly to what you know because it feels safe, even if it no longer serves you. But in these moments, it's crucial to remember that God has a plan for your life. And that plan often requires you to trust Him and embrace the new things He has prepared for you. Trusting God is not always easy, especially when it feels like everything around you is changing. When your security is shaken and your comfort zone is uprooted, it can be difficult to see the bigger picture. But it is in these moments of uncertainty that God often calls you to step out in faith. He calls you to trust Him with what's next, even when you don't have all the answers. The truth is, God is always working behind the scenes, orchestrating things in ways that we often can't see in the moment. He's preparing you for something greater. But in order to step into that, you have to let go of what's behind you. Trusting God doesn't mean that you won't feel fear or doubt along the way. It doesn't mean that you won't question the direction you're headed, but it means that you have faith in the one who has already gone ahead of you. It means that you believe that His plans for you are better than any plan you could come up with on your own. When you trust God, you're saying, I don't have all the answers, but I know you do. I don't know what's ahead, but I know you've got it all figured out. And I am choosing to believe in your goodness even when it's hard to see. In life, there will always be moments of transition. There will be times when you are faced with the decision to move forward into something new. Whether it's a new job, a new relationship, a new place, or a new chapter in your personal growth. These moments can be both exciting and terrifying at the same time. On one hand, there's the thrill of the unknown, the potential of new opportunities, and the hope that the next step will bring you closer to your purpose. On the other hand, there's the fear of failure, the anxiety of not knowing what lies ahead, and the temptation to hold on to the comfort of what you already know. This is where trusting God becomes crucial. God doesn't ask you to have it all figured out. He doesn't expect you to know exactly how everything is going to unfold. What He asks is that you trust Him with what's ahead. He asks that you step out in faith, even when the future feels unclear. And when you do, you'll begin to see the ways in which He's working things together for your good.